My name is Jeff Siegler, and I'm going to talk about historic preservation in the context of economic development. And I spend a lot of my time driving around the state working with cities and towns that are working to revitalize their urban districts, their downtowns. And the state's had a tough time over the last few decades with the loss of manufacturing, the migration out of downtowns, out of urban cores, the migration south and west, and the more recent economic decline. But there's some real bright spots in the state too. Places like Worcester and Lakewood that have decided that their community is going to do things differently, that it's up to them to dictate the future of their own town, that they get to decide the trajectory of where they live, and that it's not up to national retailers to tell them who they're going to be and what the shape of their community is. It's up to them. Places like Nelsonville and Lebanon who have decided that they're not going to spend their resources anymore trying to attract more manufacturing back to their community. Not that there's anything wrong with manufacturing, I'm saying, but they're going to do something different. They've got something different in these communities. They're going to focus on the resources that they have there. The people, the culture, their quality of life, their character, their built environment, their natural environment, their arts, their crafts, their skills. They already have those things. They don't need to pull those in from outside. And you know these towns. They're the great places to visit. They're the places that you love to go, and we all do. These are the places where you might take a weekend trip and get out of the city to do something different. You might actually stay in a bed and breakfast for a change instead of the Howard Johnson. And I find myself in these cities all the time through my job, and I always am walking around the downtowns and the residential neighborhoods, and I always end up finding myself thinking, I bet you the people that live here are happy. I can't speak to the level of happiness of the people that live there, but that makes me want to cry. I mean, that's a scary looking place to me. And there's a lot of these towns in Ohio. We're very fortunate. There's the places like Oberlin and Vermillion that have decided to focus on something that's so critical for all of us, that's so important to all communities, that if they all focused on it, we'd have very healthy, sustainable communities with vibrant economies. They've decided to focus on creating a sense of place. They've decided not to sell their soul for a front-page newspaper touting 100 new jobs. That's real, actually. Some church built that behind a Walmart. Just makes me all tingly, and it's so special. They're not going to sell their soul for a front-page newspaper or for a small bump in the tax base. They're going to go for something bigger, something better. They've decided to preserve their buildings. Instead of building new, instead of building more unnecessary parking, or instead of building these new disposable buildings on the edge of town, they're going to preserve what they have. They're going to shop in the businesses that are already in their community in the face of million-dollar ad campaigns touting family values and patriotism. They're going to spend their money in town where it really counts, because there is a responsibility component to how you spend. Communities like the Gateway District and Warehouse District in Cleveland have decided that it's not good enough for them to accept scraps off the table of multinational corporations. They've got too much pride, and they're going to do it themselves. So, sense of place. It's not an easy thing to put your finger on, but you know it when you see it because it's aesthetically appealing. It's easy on the eye. And you know it when you feel it in a place because it's incredibly comforting to your soul. It makes sense. These places typically have 2-, 3-story buildings, very pedestrian scale. Cars move at the same pace as pedestrians. A full street wall. The urban wall is continuous. There's a reason why you're in Manhattan and you walk 30 blocks and don't think a thing of it, because it compels you forward. And that's not something you get in every town. The streets are crowded, the businesses are full, and locally owned businesses typically. They're good places to spend your time. And we all like these places. This does not have a sense of place. There's nothing place about that. As somebody once said, there's no there. And I mean, God help you to risk your life to try to cross that street. So these places, they have this sense of place, and we all feel that sense of place. We all like to be in those places, and that's why in those places you feel a sense of community. That's why in those places you see your neighbors, you see your friends, you see coworkers, because we all like to gather there. And a sense of community is one of the most important things that we have in the world. It's a part of being something bigger than you. It's a part of that accountability back to your fellow man. It's that inclusiveness that's so special that's put there by design. That's something I think we often overlook, that, oh, a sense of community just happens. No, it doesn't. It's put there by design. You know, go to a cul-de-sac and you won't get that same sense of community as you will in a neighborhood with front porches and detached garages and sidewalks, because you have to know one another there. And it's the same in downtown. It's the same in urban districts. Because you all use that space, because it's a collective space, it's the community space, you feel that sense of community. It's so important to us. And those are all the characteristics of a place with a sense of community. They've got shade trees, they've got outdoor seating, they've got sidewalks, small businesses, community events. Those are the places where we feel a sense of community. Those are the places we need to protect and invest our money. The communities that I see that are doing it right, that get it, have decided it's not good enough to spend more money to incentivize businesses from out of state to come to our towns and take more money away. And then when it's all gone, they leave. Not good enough. These communities have decided that they need to do something different. They've decided to take these places that they have, these gems, these resources, and celebrate them. Make them the best that they possibly can be, because these ring true to the community. They're something special, and these are unique. You can't replicate this in every city. Recently, in a New York Times op-ed piece,